being. So, Baki, let's see. What topic do you want to debate me on?
I wanted to debate on abortion.
Okay, W. So, abortion you want to debate me on. Let me just announce this real quickly. We can get clear on the positions afterwards. Wait, what's your position on abortion?
Well, I was gonna do devil's advocate, but if you're not cool with that, then I can just pick one.
Yeah, pick a position first.
Okay, I'll take pro-life, and then you can take pro-choice.
Yo, Apollo, I promote
Okay,
this.
I'll just be agnostic on the position really, cause I'm pro-life actually.
Then in that case, I can just take pro.
I mean, you're arguing for your position, right? I can give like counter arguments potentially against your position anyway. So, you know.
Well, I don't really want to do it that way. I just want to see which one is more defendable, pro-choice or pro-life.
Okay, I'll just do this then. You're saying you're gonna argue for like pro-life, right? That's your position, correct? Your legitimate position.
But if you're saying you're pro-life, then I guess I'll take pro-choice.
No, because you're the one who's challenging me here, and plus I don't want it to be a case where you like use the excuse of I was devil's advocate, and so I'll just take pro-choice.
I know I'm gonna lose.
I'll argue for pro-choice, right?
You'll argue pro-choice.
Yeah, since you're like an actual pro-life debater, that's the only topic you're willing to debate me on, really?
Yeah, I don't really do any other topics.
Okay, cool. So let's get this announced. Okay, so deliver your argument.
Alright, so my basic position is that at the moment of conception, a whole new being is brought into existence. At the moment of their existence, they're completely unique to themselves, anyone from that they ever existed, including that of their mother, which means the mother does not have the choice to act on this being since they're completely unique of their mother.
Okay, so you said because the being is completely unique, then the mother does not have the choice. What does it mean that the mother does not have the choice? Are saying she's not morally justified in terminating the are saying she's not morally justified in terminating this being because it is unique? It is like a unique being. Is that what you're making the claim?
Yeah. Well, we can just say that all lives are intrinsically valuable, right? So if one is brought into existence and a human being, we can say that they're of value, meaning a mother does not have the right to.
What does it mean for a being to be valued?
We can say that since they're brought into existence, they're eventually going to develop into a person. We can say that they're valuable because of that.
Asking you, what does it mean for a being to be valuable, not what's the causal explanation for it to be valuable?
You're asking me why someone is valuable?
Oh, what does it mean? What does it mean for a being to be valued? What does that word mean? The word value, what does that mean?
Oh, it just means that they're typically attributed goodness, right?
Goodness. What does goodness mean?
What does goodness mean? I don't know. We can say like moral worth. You can ask me what morality is.
Moral worth? Yeah, that's still just unclear. Like, what does moral worth mean? Like, what does like that word mean there? I can give you an account of goodness, but my account of goodness is incompatible with what I think you're trying to communicate here. So, what do you mean by moral worth?
I mean, you can give me your definition, and I'll see if I agree to it.
I take goodness to be a moral property, and moral property to be the type of thing which are the relevant facts as it pertains to whether or not a given action is worthy of approval or disapproval, respectively.
Can we also say that having good qualities would be of goodness?
Yeah, because goodness is a specific property. But the qualities I'm talking about here is going to be the type of qualities which is going to be relative to one's first order ethical theory. What I'm asking you specifically, what are the qualities, what are like the necessary and the sufficient qualifiers for goodness or moral worth, to be more specific?
Well, we can say that anyone who has the capacity to live a good life or distributing any qualities required for that can be attributed goodness.
Okay, and so you're saying that any such being which has this capacity, right? Terminating such being is immoral.
Yeah, it wouldn't be good in that case, therefore it would be immoral.
So if I have a situation where I have an option which is save a nation, for example, that means a nation is about to get genocided, and I have two options. Either allow the nation to be genocided, or I kill a grown 37-year-old man. Is it immoral to kill the 37-year-old man?
What was that? You said you have two options, right? Either let a nation die,
It's a necessary dichotomy. So it's either I allow the nation, the entirety of the African nation, to be genocided, or
Mhm.
I kill this 37-year-old man.
Or you
Would that be a
kill a
morally justified
7-year-old man?
action to kill the man?
You said would it be morally justified to kill the man?
Yeah, the man, that man in isolation, the 37-year-old man, is it morally justified to kill that person?
I mean, it depends. Is that man like a bad person? Or are they like if it's
Whether
someone
or
like
not he's
Hitler,
bad or
then
good, is it morally justified? Like he's
um
never done something bad in the past.
no, it would not really be justified since he has a right to life, right?
So that means it is justified to allow the African people, every African citizen, to be genocided.
I mean, if you're not actively doing it and you're just allowing it to happen, then I guess that would be permissible. But if you were to actively,
Let's say it is the case that me basically allowing the African nation, let's say for example, um, my inaction is what causes the consequences. So my inaction towards killing the man results in the African nation being genocided, and my inaction towards the genociding of the African people results in the man dying.
I mean, you simply minding your business is then a product of them being the cause of you, right? Like it's kind of like the trolley problem. If it's coming to their way, eventually you don't do anything.
Well, let's say
It'll,
we apply the same thing to the trolley problem, because with the trolley problem, there's a direct causal relation, right?
yeah, but what I'm saying is, if you don't do anything, regardless that specific hypothetical that you brought up, they would have gotten wiped out either way, right? But if you specifically
No,
try,
because of the fact that if you did something, then they wouldn't have gotten wiped out.
right? But I'm saying if you did something that would kill the other person who has a right to life, so doing that would be immoral.
Why would it be immoral? That presupposes the falsehood of utilitarianism.
Why would it be immoral? Because the innocent
Yeah,
person has a right to life. There are not someone who's not of like anything
yeah,
immoral.
that presupposes the ontology. So it presupposes that there's certain sort of like rights and moral duties that are going to be, you could say, independently existence of circumstances which determines the moral facts, right? You could be like a utilitarian and not believe in this rights talk, these duties related talks, and just
Mhm.
determine this strictly based off utility.
Right, but you're asking me which one is morally acceptable, right? Which case?
Yes, you can only do one of these two things: allow the entirety of the African citizens to be genocided, despite the fact that you have the ability to prevent that from happening by killing this man, right? Or you actually kill this person, which prevents the genocide of the African citizens.
Well, I wouldn't want to kill the person because again, they have a right to life. So if you want to be the one that pretty much switches a lever and actively kills a person in order to save the whatever people you brought up, the Jamaican people, then in that case it would just be a utilitarian view, right? But
Do you
regardless,
think
you still commit
inaction? Do you think
that.
inaction in this case would be? Do you think inaction is not immoral? Like if I allow someone to like face a negative consequence, do you think that's not immoral?
I mean, it has more net positives than net negatives, right? But it would still be immoral for you to kill that person.
Why would it have more net positives, especially in the case where me not acting towards killing a person, which is the innocent 37-year-old man, would result in, let's say, the genocide of more like a lot of people. Like genocide is going to be something which is a larger net negative than killing one person. Do you understand this? So if anything, the inaction would result in a larger net negative, not a larger net positive in this hypothetical scenario we're talking about.
Wait, how is killing the person going to result in more net negatives?
So would you agree that for any person next, which is innocent, right, they
Hmm.
have a certain amount of value, correct?
Right?
And you distribute value equally amongst all people, correct?
Hmm.
Okay, so think of all the innocent African citizens that exist. Let's say the entirety of the nation is innocent people. They're all innocent people, innocent children, innocent
Hmm.
women, innocent men, boys, etc. Right. So,
Right.
with that being said, right, you are basically right terminating, right, or rather, you're negating. You could say terminating more morally valuable beings, right? So the moral value which is going to be terminated, right, is going to be much higher if you don't kill this person.
Yeah, there's more net positives, but you said there's more net negatives if
No,
you
no,
kill
no.
the
There are more net
person.
negatives. No, there are more net negatives. Sorry, the net negative is simply that the action of not killing this man result in more people dying than if this one man died himself by you killing him.
No, I
That's
understand.
larger net negative, not larger net positive.
I asked you, does killing this person, the 70-year-old man,
No,
result?
I said the larger net. Not, I said the larger net negative is specifically attributed towards right not killing this man, which results in more people dying. If you agree, is just as valuable as this man, which would make it the case that it's a large net negative.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying. If you want to kill the man,
Yeah,
then that's
that's
result.
not what you've been saying. I'm saying that
It is.
your whole moral system would literally entail that a larger net negative action is morally acceptable. Like you actually doing like a decision which results in a larger net negative consequence is morally okay.
Well, like I said, it depends on what type of answer you want to have to the specific question, right? That's why I brought up the trolley problem.
Yeah, and
Because
I'm saying your answer to the question entails this result, this logical conclusion, which is simply that an action which has a larger net negative result is morally okay, just in virtue of inaction.
I didn't say it would be morally okay. I just said it would result in more net positives than net negatives.
How would it result in more net positive to save less people? You're saving one person, right?
No.
You
I'm
have two
saying
options basically. It's either saving the entirety of the African nation or saving one man. How is saving one man a larger net positive?
no.
Like
I
do the
didn't say
math.
that. I said killing that one man would result in more net positives. Killing the
Wait, hold
70-year-old.
on. So now you agree that killing the one man results in more net positives,
I've
basically.
been saying that from the start.
So then how is it the case that you would say that it is not okay to pick the option of, let's say, genocide and it's like, well, it's not okay to pick the option of killing the one man because that's what they've been arguing the entire time.
I know. I've been saying that if you do that, the consequence would be an innocent person dying, which is a result of you, like of your action, right? Which would be immoral. But if you want
Same
to take
thing
a
applies
utilitarian
there. Same
approach,
thing
in which
applies
is
to the
you,
African case. Innocent people are going to die as a result of you decided to not kill the man.
well, it's not you actively doing something that's going to make them die. You could just
You're
mind your own
actively
business and
making a
never do
decision of
anything.
not killing this one person, which would save these other people.
Well, not really, because you saving the 70-year-old man from a train running over him. That's good, but just the side effect of that is going to be a whole nation dying. It's not you
Yeah, but
actively doing something.
inaction in itself is a form of action, right? So the act of not acting is an action. And so you're gonna have like this weird semantical issue here, whereas you're not able to semantically, like meaningfully semantically distinguish between inaction and action, right? And so you're just in a double bind here.
So we can really establish like the principle of double effect, right? Like if an action has both good and bad effects, like one can be justified if the good effect is intended, but the bad ones are just a side effect, right? So that's the case with the moral dilemma that you're presenting to me. If we can do the good effect and just the bad effects are presented, that's just a merely side product of what we're trying to intend.
Yeah, but the point I'm making here is simply that you're making the claim that this man has a right to life, and that's the reason why I should not kill this man. But at the same time, all the other African people has a right to life, and so that's reason to save these people.
Right, they do have a right to life, but
And you
I mean,
already agree that there's a larger net positive from saving these people. So what are you
right,
confused
I do
about?
agree. Yeah, I do agree that it's more net positives if you do choose to save them. But you choosing to save them is going to be bad because you're actively doing something that's going to kill someone. You choosing not to save the nation,
I'm actively deciding to not kill this person, which results in these people dying.
right? But you no, you actively choosing to make that decision. You're not doing a specific action. You're just choosing to save one person. The intended effect
Actively
to
choosing to do something is an action. You're making the decision right there, and a decision is a type of action.
well, no, because the moral dilemma you presented me was exactly the case of the trolley problem, right? Either you pull this lever and then it saves the whole nation, and then
That's
actively killing the
irrelevant. It's
70-year-old.
saying that in both cases, whatever option you pick, you're still making an action, which literally results in a consequence.
You are doing an action, but again, I brought up the principle of double effect, right? You have a good intention with just a merely side effect of what's going to happen.
In, wait, hold on there a second. So how is it the
Mhm.
case that you having a good intention with the mere side effect of what's going to happen has any relevance to whatsoever to what we're talking about currently, which is this case that whatever the
Wait,
dichotomy is, whatever the option is within the dichotomy that you picked, right? It is still the case you're making an action which results in a given consequence.
so here, you brought up a moral dilemma, right? Either we save the 70-year-old by preventing something that's going to happen to him by pulling an imaginary
No,
lever.
it's either we save the entirety of the African nation, right?
Mhm.
Or we kill this by killing this one man, or we don't kill
Right.
this man, and the entire African nation is genocided. That's the analogy. That's the hypothetical. Let's focus on
Right.
that one.
So in one case, you're doing an action that has a bad effect with just good side effects, but the other one would be the opposite of that, right?
In one case, you're doing what specifically?
So in one case, you're going to do a bad action that's going to result in good side effects, but in the other, you're doing a good action that's going to
Which is
result
killing
in
the one
bad side
person,
effects.
which is killing the one person doing a bad action, which is going to have positive side effects, which
Right,
is
but what
killing
I'm
the one
saying
man,
is,
correct?
in one
Hmm.
case, you're actively killing someone, which is bad. In the other case, you're not actively killing people. It's just a mere byproduct of what you're doing. You're just minding your own business.
All you're saying is that the actions are different. It doesn't establish that you, quote unquote, minding your own business is not a bad action. For example, if I am walking and I see a drowning child in the lake and I'm able to swim, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone would fucking say that me ignoring this child is going to be something which is wrong. That's morally wrong. Even though I would not be legally
Wait,
accountable or legally
it's not
held for this
necessarily
action, they're going to say
morally
it's
wrong.
immoral to do this,
It's not
right? If I just
necessarily
allow the
morally
child to
wrong.
drown.
What if you choosing to save that child endangered yourself, and then both of you resulted in dying?
Except in
Would
the
that still be
analogy I'm talking about, it doesn't,
in a case if it
because I'm
doesn't?
a great swimmer. They're
You're a
just like
great
putting in
swimmer.
what ifs, which is irrelevant to the fucking parts here. And the
Well,
point
no,
is
because you brought
simply
up a
that
specific
you have an
hypothetical, so
example.
it
You have an
reals.
example, Baki, you have an example
Mm,
where you're walking, okay,
right, right.
and you're able to swim. There's not going to be a negative consequence from you saving the child. But you see the child drowning, like a little
Mhm.
6-year-old kid drowning, and you're like, oh, well, I'm going to mind my own business. And you continue walking, okay? That's immoral. Like, people just look at that and be like, yeah, this guy's a douchebag. That's immoral. Like, he shouldn't have done this, right? That's everyone's moral intuitions on this matter. Under
Yeah, of
your
course. If
perspective,
it's no, no,
given
no.
the
If it's a
fact,
specific hypothetical like that, then of
hold
course I
on,
would
give me a
agree.
second. I'm still speaking. Still
Yeah,
speaking.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Under your perspective, given the fact that this is an inaction, there's nothing bad about it.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I agree with you that it's good to save the child, but I was taking into account not the specific hypothetical that if you're not able to swim and you endanger yourself and the kid, then that would be bad. But then you just substantiated on it more, so I do agree
No,
with your
because in
hypothetical.
the example we've talked about previously, you said specifically in one case, you're doing a bad action, which is killing the person to save the
Mm-hmm.
African nation. And the other case, you're not doing a bad action, you're just minding your own business, and that results in the genocide of the African nation. And
It
in
does,
that, in the
you're
latter part
saving
of
the one person
of
in
the
the meantime.
dichotomy, I'm still speaking.
Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead.
So, in the latter part of what you're saying, you're presupposing that the reason as to why there's not a bad action is because it is a inaction, right? Which is not true because, as I've said before, an inaction is going to inevitably be boiled down to a type of action, and it's going to be an immoral action because, again, I can give arguments in favor of utilitarianism, right? Your whole view here just presupposes a first order ethical theory, which is deontology. You're talking about these rights, do this talk, without really cashing out the consequences related information of the ethical talk here.
No, because you just brought up a hypothetical with only good effects, right? Doing that specific action was only result in good effects and not a byproduct of bad side effects. That's why I was bringing up another hypothetical that's more equivalent to the moral dilemma that you presented to me, right? Because saving the kid does not result in any bad side effects. It's just only good effects. So we can say that action would be morally good, right?
So let's say if you save the kid, there's a bad side effect. That bad side effect is you having a broken arm. Is it
Mhm.
now not okay to save the kid?
Well, it's still okay because no other lives are being affected, right?
No, okay. So hold on there a second. You're
Mhm.
talking about bad side effects. I've given a bad side effects case scenario. I've given the bad side effects information regarding the hypothetical, which is you're gonna have a broken arm if you save this child's life. Okay,
Right.
because
Mhm.
apparently you believe that the existence of a bad side effect would render the action from being okay, but you still believe it is okay, even though there's a
Yeah.
bad side effect in the example of saving the child from drowning.
Yeah, you're agreeing with me. We just brought up an action
No,
with
I'm not
good.
agreeing with you. I'm actually disagreeing with you and
No,
pointing out your own contradiction.
no, it's not
You
a contradiction.
contradicted yourself.
It's not a contradiction. I'll explain why. So again, we brought up an action with both good and bad effects, right? And we can say the good effect is intended and the bad effects are merely side effects. Therefore, it's justified, right? Even if you get a broken arm, it's justified because the good effect is intended and the bad effects are just merely byproducts of that, which is the same thing with the moral dilemma you presented to me. I told you the good effect is saving a 70-year-old and the bad effects is just the people dying. the nation that you brought up. You just established that I'm right in this scenario.
No, I didn't, because you said
Yeah, you
specifically
did.
the reason as to why this is the case, that the situation regarding the inaction, right, is going to
Mm-hmm.
be, it's not going to be okay, is because there are bad side effects, right, from, or the action I should say is not okay, is because there's going to be bad side effects from, let's say killing this one person, right, which is going to be,
Mm-hmm.
or rather, we could say the bad side effect is specifically the life being deprived, some life being deprived. You're saying that the inaction is only justified in cases where there's no bad side effects. Okay, that's what
No,
you've said.
I said an action is justified if good effects are intended and bad effects are just merely side effects of that.
The action is going to be justified if there are only good intentions. You said.
So what I'm trying to say is an action is justified if the good effect is intended and the bad effect is merely a side effect, which in the moral dilemma that you presented to me, the good effect is saving the 70-year-old and the nation dying would just be merely side effects of that. And then in the same
Okay,
scenario that you
and
presented
so
to me,
how is it the case that there's no good intention with killing the innocent man?
wait, you said is there's a good intention in killing an innocent
I'm
man?
saying,
You
how
say
is it the case
I
there's not a
satisfaction
good
and
intention
reaffirm.
in the hypothetical if given, whereas you kill the innocent man for the sake of saving the entirety of the African nation?
Because killing an innocent man is not a good effect. That's a bad effect.
That
It's a
doesn't
bad
mean that
effect,
the intention behind the effect is not good.
but it's not justified if it's a bad effect.
Are you retarded? You said specifically that it is the case that an action is good based off the intentions and the side effects. So the side effect is irrelevant. So let's say, for example, the
No, the
side
side
effect
effects
of
aren't irrelevant.
engaging in an action is the person dying. If the intention is good, then the action is good.
Wait, repeat that one
So
more
if the
time.
intention behind me killing this person is to save the entirety of the African nation, and
Mm-hmm.
the side effect of such intention is this person dying, then under your moralistic climate, it is a good action.
Well,
What are you
it's the
talking about?
same. It's the same case for both of us. Both can be justified. That's why I said it depends on a utilitarian or deontologist, right?
No, just under your own perspective, your own view gets contradicted, right? Because you're saying that the action of me killing this person is wrong because this person has a right to life. Then you laid out your qualifiers for a good action. You said an action is good if it is the
Mm-hmm.
case that there's a good intention behind the action, even if there are bad side effects. So it contradicts your previous claim because in the situation I'm talking about, the intention behind me killing this 37-year-old man is just merely based off the fact that I want to save the entirety of the African nation. That's a good intention. Even though there's a bad side effect which comes with this intention and acting upon or acting in favor of this intention, i.e., that being that this man is going to die. So,
So again, it's not contradicted because the case that you're going to choose to save the nation, that's a good intention, and you're just trying to say that the side effect is just 70-year-old
the man
dying.
dying, yeah.
No, but that's not a side effect. That's you actively killing him to save the people. That's not a
What do you
side
think a
effect.
side effect is?
What do I think a side effect is? Just a byproduct of something that you intend.
Yes, you fucking retard. So I intend to save the African nation, and I act
By,
towards this
by
intention to
actively
fulfill
killing
this
the
intention.
70-year-old, right?
And the result is this guy dying as a result of me killing him to act in favor of the intention of saving the African nation.
No, but you
So it's
actively
a side
killing
effect
him
given your own
is bad.
definition. It's a result of the action of, yeah, what are you talking about?
Right. But what I'm trying to say is you killing that person actively is immoral in this case, where in the other hand,
I know you're
you
repeating
choosing
yourself.
not
That doesn't
to.
prove your claim, by the way.
Well, it does, because you were talking about consequences and actively killing someone.
Yes, you said that in the case of this man dying, it's not a side effect when it literally is given your own definition.
Well, it's not a side effect. This is the
Yes, it
actual
is. You said
effect.
the side effect by definition is a result of acting towards or in favor of a particular intention regarding an
Right.
action. That's your definition, basically almost word for word. And so I'm saying that this man dying is a result, it's an effect of you acting towards the intention or acting towards fulfilling the intention of saving the African citizens by
No,
killing this
because
person.
so
It's a
again,
result of the action. Like
no,
what?
killing the person will result in another effect of saving the other ones, right? That would be the side effect.
No, killing the person and the person dying, those two things are results of you acting towards an intention. So, on your own perspective, these two negative consequences are side effects. and it is still going to be a moral action because even if the consequences are negative, I had a good intention behind the actions. So
Okay, so
under your
your first
perspective, it is morally okay.
no, it's not, because your intention is to save the nations, right? But by
Yeah,
doing
that's a
so,
good intention. Yeah,
that's a
you
good
said a good
intention, right? That's
intention
a good
coupled
intention,
with yeah, go for it. Uh-huh.
right? So that's a good intention, but you need an initial action to do so, right? And that initial action will
We're not
result.
talking about we're not talking about the causal reason or the causal
Okay,
prerequisite for
I'm trying to
doing any of
explain
this.
to
We're
you
talking
what
about the qualifiers you're using here.
I'm trying to tell you what a side effect is of an initial effect.
You've
So
already
the initial
told me what it
effect.
is. I've allowed you to
No, but you
articulate the
seem a
full
little
sentence
confused on it
and explain what it is.
because you're saying killing a person is also a side effect of killing him, which doesn't make sense.
That's not what I said. I said killing the person is a side effect of acting towards the intention of saving the African nation. You're not even tracking the
Wait. So how
conversation.
do you save the African nation?
You save the African nation in this example by killing this person, which is going to be a
Wait,
result of
right.
you
So
acting
that's
towards
the
the
initial
intention
action, right?
of
So that's the
saving
initial
the
action.
African nation. Yes, so it is a result.
No, the result of you killing that person is saving the nation.
No,
That's the side effect.
the result of you, right, actions or the result of you fulfilling the intention, right, is going to be something which is killing the specific person.
Okay, so you saving the nation by killing the 70-year-old, is that a result of good effects or bad effects?
It depends on your perspective of good and bad effects.
That's what we've been talking about the whole time, right?
Yes, and I'm saying your perspective of what a good action is literally entails that the action you're talking about here is a good action.
Okay, so in the moral dilemma that you presented me, what are the good and bad effects?
That's irrelevant to what we're talking about currently.
Wait, how's that irrelevant? We're talking about good and bad effects in the
Because
case
what
of the
we're
moral
talking
dilemma
about
that you
here is
presented me.
specifically your conceptual analysis of a good action.
You asked me why I would choose to save the 70-year-old, and I told you why. I brought up the
It's not the
principle of
reason
moral
as to
effect.
why you do this. It's the qualifiers you're using here currently to determine a good action. You said a good action, an action is good. Like if, for example, you have a good intention behind a
Mm-hmm.
given action, and there are negative results from the action, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or negative side effects from the action is still okay. And by side results, you define
Right,
that to be
it's
results
justified.
are consequences of a given action. So in this case scenario, right,
Mm-hmm.
the action of me killing this person, right, that's good because I have a good intention behind the action, or the action of, let's say, me stabbing this man, right, is good,
Right.
right, because
Mm-hmm.
I had a good intention behind stabbing this person in his neck, right, even though the
Mm-hmm.
consequence of this, of me doing this, is this
Right.
person dying.
I mean, I don't really see where you're going with this because you brought up that one scenario where you were a swimmer and then you had to save a kid, and then the bad effect of that would just you be breaking your arm. But we can still say that the intentional action
Why
of
are you
you
going
saving the
back to that
kid.
example? I've already switched the example because you've switched the conditions.
I didn't switch the conditions. What do you mean? What condition did I
You
switch?
didn't clarify from the beginning that these are the conditions for an action being okay. So when you've clarified this, I just changed and modified the hypothetical to fit your conditions and establish why it is still the case that your position entails a contradiction.
Okay, can you present the newly hypothetical one more time?
Excuse me?
Can you present the new hypothetical one more time?
Yeah, sure. So before I even present the hypothetical, I'm going to repeat what you've said word for word, and you're going to agree with it if it's a correct recollection, or disagree with it if it is incorrect and it's a straw man, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
So what you said is an action is okay if it is the
Mm-hmm.
case that, let's say, the intentions behind the action is good, even
Mm-hmm.
if there are certain negative side effects. By side effects, you said the results which comes alongside doing an action. Good. So now, with the case, is that correct, by the way? Correct
Well,
recollection?
you said good intention. I just want to clarify by good effect.
I never said good effect. I said bad effect. I said the opposite.
No, I know, but I'm trying to just clarify. Like you did get it, like
Why
kind
would
of
you ask me to
90% right.
clarify a word I did not even use in the sentence? Like, what are you doing?
Okay, here I'll just clarify for you, and then you can present the hypothetical. Is that okay?
Okay, go for it.
Okay, so an action with both good and bad effects can be justified if the good effect is intended, and the bad effects are just merely side effects.
Okay, so if the good effects are intended and the bad effects are merely side effects.
Mhm.
Okay, so Do you think it is okay for me to stab a person in his neck?
No.
Okay, cool. So let's say we have a case where we have two options, which is we save the entirety of the African nation by stabbing this grown man in his neck 5 times, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Or we don't
Right.
stab this grown man in his neck 5 times and we save the
Mm-hmm.
African nation, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Which one would be morally okay given your perspective? Neither one of them, or what?
Is the girl going to die?
Is the man going to die?
You said stabbing the girl 5 times in the neck,
No, I
right?
said man. I said man.
Oh man, sorry about that. Are they going to die or no?
That's irrelevant. Because let's say, for
Not
example, I'm not intending to cause the side effect of. Let's say the person dying is a side effect. That's stipulated. So the person is going to die. But my
Mhm.
intention is no regards to whether or not the person is dying. I'm just stabbing the person in the neck 5 times to just save the African nation.
No, but we need to know if that person is going to die because that's
The
what's going
person
to
is
be
going
the
to
bad
die. I
effect.
just told you the person is going to die, but my intention does not encapsulate the person dying.
So your intention is what again?
My intention is just to save the African nation.
And by doing so, you need to stab someone five
I
times in
need to
the neck.
stab this person in the neck 5 times. Yeah.
That's going to ultimately kill them.
Yes, that's a side effect of me stabbing the person 5 times.
Yeah, no, that's not morally acceptable.
That's a contradiction.
How is that a contradiction?
Because you said specifically that an action is okay, right? If
hmm
there, like, the only time where an action is okay if there are bad side effects is if the bad side effects are not intended. In this case scenario, my intention and my knowledge does not cover or encapsulate the bad side effect of this person dying, but you still don't believe it is okay.
But you're getting confused though. You think that stabbing that person 5 times and then dying is a side effect. That's the initial effect.
No, the person dying is something which comes along with the person getting stabbed 5 times. Under your definition, that's a side
No, but
effect.
okay,
It's a result
you
of the action which is not even intended by the person.
okay, you're kind of getting confused again. So we have to come up with an actual scenario that justifies this, right? So can we clarify that you doing an initial action that result in them dying is the initial effect and not a side effect?
Repeat that, please.
Okay, so can we
How many noises
clarify
have
that
you done?
if you stab this person 5 times and it just results in them dying, that's the initial effect and not a side effect?
Why would it not be a side effect? If you said by definition the side effect is of an action, that's your
No,
definition.
because the side
The
effect,
result of me
the
stabbing the
side
person
effect,
5 times is this
right?
person dying. It fits your
Okay,
definition.
no,
That's
it's
your
no,
definition. Just switch it up every single time and get caught in the contradiction.
no, it's not because you said a side effect is a
Wait, if
result of
I
an
go down
action.
the VC and ask everyone if your definition of a side effect is a result of a given action, would they agree with me? Because
Okay,
apparently I'm
we
the one
can
who's
hold
confused.
on. We can ask them after I ask you this question, right? So you said a side effect
No, we
is a
can ask them right
result.
now before you ask a question derailed from the conversation.
Well, no, because I want to ask you a question to see what you answer with. Can I go ahead and ask you?
Ask the question then.
Okay, so you said a side effect is a result of an action. So if that action is you stabbing that person 5 times and they die, then the side effect of that would be saving those nations. Is that not a side effect?
Of course, that's another side effect,
Okay, so
but
it
there's
is.
also
Okay,
a
so
bad
we
side
agree.
effect.
No, but them
So I
dying
agree with
is
the
not a
point,
side
which does
effect.
not help
That's
your
the initial
points.
effect.
Congratulations. Your
No,
point is simply
then
that if
you,
there's a bad side effect, if there's a bad side effect which comes alongside the action, right? If it is intended, then it is not morally okay, right? And if it is not intended, then it is morally okay to actually engage in the action. There
but do you
can
see
be
how?
one action with
Mhm.
there can be one actions with both positive and negative side effects. But the
Right.
point is
So
simply that you're determining the immorality of the action based on the fact that there's a bad side effect to it, which is intended. So I switched the hypothetical to fit the case where it is not actually true that me stabbing this person 5 times, right, results in an intended
Mhm.
side effect of this person dying.
But that person dying is not a side effect. That's the initial effect. Because you can see under my
No, it is a
criteria,
side
it
effect given
is.
your own definition.
No, it
The
is because under my.
definition of a side
Mhm.
effect, which we have both established on numerous occasions,
Mhm.
is a result of a given action, a result which comes alongside engaging in a particular action.
Mhm.
A result
Okay,
which comes
so
alongside me stabbing the person 5 times is the person dying. Clearly.
yeah, sure. Now I'm going to present you a hypothetical that fits my criteria.
Wait, so just to be clear, before you go on and ramble on the hypothetical, you agree that was your definition, correct?
Yeah, it was my definition.
Okay, so it is the case that the person dying is a side effect. What are you talking about?
No, it's not, because you're confusing.
How is it not the case that the person dying is not a result which is accompanied by stabbing the person 5 times?
Because stabbing the person 5 times, that's the initial effect, which results in
That
you
presupposes that it is the case that the person dying is not the side effect. That begs the question.
But that's why I asked you from the start: is stabbing them 5 times going to result?
I'm going to look. You said the side effects. You just agreed on a while ago is a result accompanied by participated in an action. Right. Now, a result is just an effect. It's something which comes after a given cause for that same thing occurring, right? So the cause of this person dying, still speaking. The cause of this person dying is quite literally, right, me stabbing this person 5 times in the neck, right? And so clearly, this person dying is an effect of the cause. And if it's an effect of the cause, then it's a result of that cause or that event, which is the cause explanation for the event. And so it's a result, accompanied by the action of me killing the person 5 times.
Right, but you're kind of confusing yourself because you're saying that...
I'm not confusing myself, I just use your definition to extrapolate and you're just contradicting yourself.
Every time I start speaking, you just cut me off. Let me get it through. So again, we defined a side effect as a result of initial action, right? That's why I asked you from the start, is that initial action just going to be them dying?
No, we didn't define a side effect as an initial action. You just agreed to my definition, which had no reference to initial actions.
Right, but my definition also fits my criteria, which with my...
No, it doesn't. I gave the definition again, and you agreed to the definition, and it has no reference to initial action.
You said it doesn't. Can I then present you a hypothetical where it does?
What are you talking about? I gave the definition a while ago. You said, yes, that's my definition. And then I used the definitional content to show why it is necessarily true that the person dying is a side effect.
No, but saving that person also fits my definition.
No shit, that's not the point. The point is simply you making the claim that this person specifically dying is not a side effect does not actually go in alignment with your definition. It contradicts the definitional criteria you've laid out on the table for what determines a side effect.
Just because you have a subjective criteria of what an initial action is, doesn't make it contradictory.
The definition you're talking about here has no regard to initial actions.
It does. I'm saying an action.
No, it doesn't. It's just to say that a side effect is a result of an action. That's it. The action we're talking about could be a secondary action, could be a primary or initial action. That's irrelevant. The point is simply a side effect is just quite literally, just a result of an action. That's it. That's all the definition is stated.
But stabbing them 5 times and dying, stabbing them 5 times and then dying, that's the same action. You're trying to like interpolate them.
No, it's not the same action, retard. It's not the same action. The reason why it's not the same action is because it is logically possible for you to stab someone 5 times and they do not die.
That's why I asked you from the start, is it going to result in them dying?
You agree it's logically possible, right? It's theoretically possible.
Yeah, it is. It is possible for them not to die. That's why I asked you from the start.
Give me one second, bro.
Yeah, take your time. Holy shit, I'm getting fucking cooked.
I'm back. What's up?
Yeah. What was I saying? What the fuck? Oh yeah, I was trying to say that.
Yeah, I'm saying that like the definition you've given had no regards to initial action at all. Like that's irrelevant.
No, it did, because I can give you the definition again.
No, you're going to give me a different definition after you got yourself fucked over in the first
No, it's not, because you can always go back to recording, right? You're recording, aren't you?
We can just ask the VC right now. So, Dynadog, is it not the case that this guy defined a... and he, by the way, he just agreed to my definition on numerous occasions, even after the recollection clash.
Well, your definition
you agreed that a result, like a side effect, is a result accompanied by an action. Now, does the definition...
And we're talking about the initial action?
No. By an action, yes. You said yes, you said that verbatim. You said yes, that's the case.
Yeah, but I'm talking about in the initial action of you stabbing them 5 times.
Oh, you're just conveniently talking about the initial action, huh?
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Even though it was never specified in the definition from the very beginning. Because it's the case there's a contradictory entailment from the very beginning.
We established from the start, from the very beginning, right?
Yeah, we established that a side effect is just a result of an action.
Oh, 1 second.
Correct.
Okay, sorry, I'm back. Anyways, what were you saying?
Yeah, I'm saying that we've established that a side effect is a result accompanied by an action. Okay? You then said stabbing the person and the person dying is the same thing, which it isn't. right? No one would ever make the dumb claim. No, stabbing the person in the neck 5 times just results in the person dying. Is that the same thing as the person dying? Okay.
No, but that's why I asked you from the very start in your hypothetical. The stabbing them 5 times
Before we
ultimately.
go on to this, do we concede they're not the same thing?
What happened?
Do you concede that stabbing the person 5 times and the person dying is not the same thing?
Well, no, because it depends on your hypothetical. That's why I'm trying to clarify.
Wait, no, it doesn't depend on my hypothetical. Is it the case that this is true? Yes or no?
It is the same thing under your hypothetical.
How is it the same thing under my hypothetical?
Because stabbing them 5 times will lead to them dying, so that's going to be just a typical.
Oh, it leads to them.
Right?
Oh, wait, so it leads to them dying. So it's
Right.
not the same thing. Yeah, when you say something leads to something else happening, you're saying it's the cause for that thing happening. How can the cause for an effect be the same thing? How can cause and effect by definition are different? They're analytically different. The cause and the
You're
effect
trying
are
to
different things.
insinuate a specific action, right? You're trying to bring out two
But
different.
even your own wording contradicts your own point.
No, because that's why I asked you from the very start, does stabbing them 5 times ultimately result to them dying, which you said yes. So that particular action.
Yeah, so they're not the same thing given your own recollection of what my point is. They're not the same thing. Given my perspective, given your perspective, given anyone's perspective, it's not the same thing.
Okay, but under your hypothetical, it's a necessary effect of them being stabbed 5
Yeah, a
times.
necessary effect of a cause does not mean the necessary effect is identical to the cause. That's retarded. That's like me saying, oh, if I have a case where, I don't know, me, like, let's say, inhaling and exhaling air is going to result in, let's say, Neptune getting destroyed, right? The action of Neptune getting destroyed is not the same thing as me inhaling and exhaling.
Right.
It's just
Okay,
a
I'll concede on
necessary
this.
result of such. Pardon?
I said I'll concede on this point.
Okay, let's move on.
Okay, but I just want to clarify one more thing, though. Like in your specific hypothetical that you brought up of them being stabbed 5 times, like did we say for sure that the person will die? Like it's a necessary effect that them being stabbed 5 times and
Yes.
the neck will die? Okay, we can go to the next point then.
Yeah, so it's a necessary side effect, right? It's not intended by the person to make the person die. The only thing this person is thinking about is just intentionally stabbing this person 5 times to
Mhm.
save the entirety of the African nation. That's it.
Okay, right. Okay.
So,
All right.
under your view, you think that's immoral, correct?
Well, because in your specific hypothetical, the results is them ultimately dying, then it would be immoral for you to stab this person 5 times in the neck in order to save a nation.
Wait, so how is it immoral given my hypothetical?
Because in my case, you're still actively killing someone, even though that your action that you're doing is going to result in them dying.
But that's irrelevant given your own concept because you believe that it is the case that an action is justified if they are.
Complaciendo para todos los bailadores con esta rola que dice
Yeah.
Don't
But
know,
yeah,
like, how
I
can you be this much of
moral.
a useless nigger to society to the point where you go on an outgoing just to get attention by loud micing? Fuck. So, as I was saying, your concept of an action being okay is quite literally that despite whatever negative consequences or side effects of such, if it is not intended, okay, and if there are good intentions behind the action, then the action is okay. In this situation, I don't intend for the person to die or feel whatever pain that the person feels from me stabbing the person 5 times. The only thing I'm intending to actually accomplish here is just save the entirety of the African nation. So, given your own analysis of an okay action, an action which is morally permissible, it would be the case that the action is okay. And so it contradicts your current
The only
claim.
reason why it would be justified if the person did not die. But in this hypothetical, you clarified that they would
That's
die.
irrelevant. The effect is irrelevant if it is not intended given your perspective. Your analysis of an okay action is that if there's a negative side effect, it can still be okay so long as that side effect is not intended by the agent. So if I don't intend to make this person die, but just to stab this person to save the African nation, that's the only thing that I'm thinking about, okay, then it is the case the action is going to be okay.
Right, but the action is not just letting the nation survive. You have to actively stab that person 5 times.
You have to actively stab the person, yes, but that action in itself would be okay because there's a good intention behind the action, and the negative consequence of this action, which is the person dying, is not something which I'm thinking about or intending when I'm participating in that action.
Okay, let's say in your hypothetical, instead of the nation being saved, there's just like a Dorito chip getting eaten, and you stabbing them 5 times would ultimately kill them. And if you did that, just a Dorito would get eaten. Would you say that it's immoral for you to do that?
I don't even get the point of your hypothetical. I want to just to continuously engage with my hypothetical. Just do that.
Well, I did. I told you how
No, you
it also
changed
affects
the
you, right?
hypothetical. That's not you engaging with my personal hypothetical.
No, I did engage with your hypothetical multiple times, but you seem to think that it only works
Yeah,
under
but I
your
established that given your
criteria, not mine.
conceptual analysis of morally okay action, it entails that killing this man is okay. Quite literally.
Well, no, because it's still under my view of principle of double effect, right? If you have an action with good and bad effects, it can be justified if the good effect is intended. In this case, me saving the 70-year-old is the good effect, and then the nation dying are the bad effects. It's justified. That's why I'm saying it works under both of our
The
views.
nation dying, are you saying the nation dying
That
would be the bad effect of what?
would be the bad
You
effect
not
of,
killing the person?
yeah.
Okay, so hold on a second. So to be clear in this,
Oh, wait,
do
sorry.
we
Can we?
agree? Do we agree that your analysis of an okay action is an action like this is like one example of an okay action, an action which has negative side effects, which
Mhm.
are unintended with good intentions.
Wait,
Correct?
are you saying my action is
Yeah.
unintended?
If you have an action
Hmm.
and there are negative side effects, but the
Hmm.
intention behind the action is good,
Hmm.
is this an okay action?
It's justified if the good effect is intended and the bad effects are just side effects.
Okay, cool. Now, it is the case that when I stab this person 5 times, given the
Hmm.
hypothetical, let's say I
Right.
don't have any knowledge of the relevant biological facts regarding what happened when
Hmm.
I do any sort of like action, like let's say stabbing a person. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know the biological consequence of me participating in said action. And
Hmm.
someone give me 2 chances or 2 choices, okay, which is to stab this person 5 times,
Right.
for the sake of saving the African nation,
Hmm.
okay. And my intention and all I'm thinking about is just to save all of these people. That's it. I just want to
Hmm.
save these people. I don't want to make them die. Okay. And
Right.
so I stab this person 5 times.
Hmm.
And what comes alongside that action is this person dying.
Oh my god, hold on.
Okay.
Let me mute this guy, bro. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
And what comes alongside the action is that person dying.
Hmm.
Okay. Is it the case that this action is okay?
No, because it's going to be murder in this case. So if you want to justify murder, then that's kind of absurd, right?
Yeah, you're not tracking. The point is simply it fits all the conditions. The condition you've set out for an example of an okay action is an action with negative side. Well, if an action has negative side effects, which are not intended, but there are good intentions behind the action is morally justified. That's what you've agreed it on numerous occasions, even a while ago. Now we have an
Right.
action,
Hmm.
okay, which is killing this man, or sorry, stabbing this person 5 times, okay.
Hmm.
There is a negative consequence of me doing such, which is this man dying, okay.
Hmm.
I did not. I was not aware of said consequence. I was not aware of this. The only thing I'm thinking about and I'm intentionally acting towards is the
Hmm.
accomplishment of the goal of
Hmm.
saving the African nation. So in this case, there's an unintended side effect which I was not even aware of. So that would indicate that it's unintended, which is simply this man dying. Okay,
Hmm.
alongside that happening, it is the case that there's a good intention behind the action which results in this unintended side effect of this person dying,
Hmm.
and that is to save the African nation. So it fits all the qualifiers, and
Hmm.
so therefore the action is morally justified, you know? So, yeah.
Uh, yeah. Can after I respond, just don't cut me off because I want to clarify. So I do agree to that, but you're saying in the case that you don't know that the person is going to die, and it can be justified. I mean, that's kind of logical to assume that it would be justified. But again, I did present you my hypothetical that it would still fit my criteria as well if we choose to save the
But your
7-year-old.
hypothetical is not the point you're talking about. We're talking about my hypothetical. So I'm glad we now agree
We
I'm
do
glad you
that.
now
We do agree.
concede that killing this one man or stabbing this one man in the neck 5 times to save the entirety of Africa is okay. Initially, you said no, that's not okay. Now you're agreeing it is okay. So
Well,
you
you keep
changed your
exaggerating the
stance.
hypothetical. That's why I'm agreeing now.
No, it's not a matter of exaggeration. It's been put in the same way. It's just you're just finally tracking that your moral system entails a contradiction.
Well, no, because do we agree that it fits both of our hypotheticals?
We're only talking about one hypothetical here. So, with that being said, you agree that there are cases where you do an action which results in someone dying, which is okay, correct? Even though this person is a unique life.
In your extreme hypothetical where you don't know it's going to result in someone dying, that's justified.
Okay, so it's only when the person does not know if the person is going to die.
Well, in your extreme hypothetical, I guess it would be justified.
So, hold on a second. So, just to be clear in this, you're saying that intentions is a necessary condition for an action to be something which is rendered as morally okay and morally, you could say, unjustified, correct?
Can you repeat that one more time?
You're saying that an action, okay, right,
Mm-hmm.
a necessary condition of the morality of an action, the moral status of an action, is going to be the intentionality, which is motivating the action.
Not necessarily the intention. We can say intention and conclusion as well.
Yeah, I'm just saying the necessary condition. I'm not saying it's the only necessary condition.
Yeah, I guess we can say that.
Okay, got you. So now you're saying that in the case where the person, let's say they know the side effect, they know the person is going to die. It's not going to be okay to stab
Mm-hmm.
this person 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so what's going to be the relevant facts which justifies the claim that it is not okay?
What's going to be the relevant factor that justifies for it not being?
The relevant facts which justifies that claim. Yes, you're making the positive claim that it is not okay if the person knows the negative side effects.
What's going to be the condition that's going to
What's
justify
the
it?
proof for the claim that it is immoral, given the fact that the person knows that there are going to be negative side effects, like the person dying?
Yeah, I'm kind of stumped right now. Let me think. Mm-mm.
Yeah, if you don't know if it is the case that it is immoral under the condition that the person is aware of the side effects of said action, okay, then it is the case that you don't even know if the qualifier you're trying to use to justify the immorality of abortion even works. Because you're saying that the abortion activity is immoral just in virtue of the person having the right to life and the person having a unique existence, okay? And so if we have other factors which could basically outweigh or overrule that condition you're talking about, then it is
Mm-hmm.
not the case that the condition you're saying is going to be sufficient in establishing the immorality of abortion. It doesn't follow from this condition existing that abortion is moral. And so your arguments would not be something which is valid. Doesn't
Okay, but
validly lead to the conclusion.
what would be the effects that outweigh the fetus's life?
I don't need to present the effects. So long as I show that it is the case that the condition you're laying out does not result or entail the conclusion, then it is not the case